up on Facebook any just a few minutes. Actually, less than a minute or so.
It says you're on your live now on Facebook.
Okay, there we go. Copy link. Paste. There you go. Don't argue with me. Cut and paste you. right. Wow, early. Okay. A little early. 77 shares. For the 5 of you in the room right now, I don't know who the 5 are. Please let me know who you are. 7 of you. I take that back. 7. Hello, 7 of you. This is the pre-production bit that you get to see every week. 8 of you. Thank you for being here. This is the pre-production bit. We will push play to our sisters, brothers, friends, and family for the audio portion of our program at hot101.net in just a few minutes. And everybody will be up to speed. I see 10 of you in the live chat. Please let us know who you are so I can say hello to you. And I don't know why I keep turning the comments off there. I don't know why that keeps happening. Keep goofing with the there's Mike. Hey. Welcome, Mr. Laws. There's a big welcome to Mike Laws, who's in the live chat. Thank you for being here, Mr. Laws. Appreciate you being here very much, sir. Appreciate it very, very much, my friend. We missed you this morning at Saucon Democrats, by the way. We missed you this morning. Appreciate you very much being here. Spread the word. We have to support each other. This is, there is no progressive media, by the way, in the Lehigh Valley. We're very, very fortunate, very lucky that, modern technology allows this program to literally go global. You were in church. Hey, well, that's, God comes first. He's a little more powerful than us here in Saucon Democrats. He's just a little above us. So we don't supplant God. But that said, we're very lucky that modern technology literally allows us to go global. But there's no progressive media really here anywhere in the Lehigh Valley or in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So I appreciate every single one of you that is here and paying attention to the program this week and every week. It is deeply, deeply appreciated. Very, very much appreciated. I think I saw Larry in there. A shout out and a welcome to Larry. Larry, kind enough, chair of the Easton Democratic Committee, who's been kind enough, and I'm very appreciative to him as well, not just for his friendship, but for allowing the program to be shared on the Easton City Democratic Committee page as well. We're just in the pre-production phase here currently. We'll be pushing play for the audio version of the program to go out to hot101.net globally, literally around the globe in just a few seconds. We'll just be pushing play on that in just a few seconds. Give our friends and family at hot101.net a chance to get to their speakers, and then the program will be global. All right, George, I'm going to hit play. And here we actually wait. I don't know what it's going to do. Where did you go? Where did you go, YouTube? There it is. Okay. Let's say hi to hot101.net, shall we?
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through? But that's a doggone season that he won't try something new. A man who's old enough to know
and young enough to do.
Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. But it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight?
A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right.
A loyal man who'll bring the job a fresh new point of view. Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Because it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed?
It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true.
So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. And it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you cast your vote for Kennedy, and the change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Yes, it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy,
Welcome, 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 welcome to each and every single one of you. Welcome back. This is the Kennedy Effect for 24 January 2021 from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, part of these United States on planet Earth, the only one we have. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the Kennedy Effect for 24 January 2021. A hearty hello and welcome to every single one of you that has joined us yet again. It is another week here in the United States, a new week, a new air about the country today. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, what is that new sense of fresh air in the land today? Is it what's new? What's different? What feels so different? Well, Manchester United beat Liverpool today in the FA Cup. I imagine that's probably why you are all feeling so chipper and so excited today, as you should. Great win for the lads today. They will progress in the world's oldest knockout tournament, knockout football tournament on Earth. United prevails 3-2, goals from Mason Greenwood, Marcus Rashford, and Bruno Fernandes beating Liverpool. United top of the table too, by the way, in the Premier League, in case you didn't know. That's why we're jerseying up today. Big win for United. Would have loved to have seen it, of course, but all too often now the English FA has decided to put these games on high-priced pay-per-view outlets that this kid can't afford. So we had to read the match highlights and read the match summary after it was over. So I missed it, but I did see the highlights. Great win for the lads today. They will progress to the FA Cup 5th round. Did something else happen this past week? Trying to remember. Well, let's get to the business of the program first, shall we? And then we can always get back to that. Welcome to every single individual one of you watching us, listening to us, wherever you may be. It is 5:05 Eastern Time here in the United States as day turns into evening. But if it is morning, afternoon, evening, dead in the middle of the night, or maybe even already Monday, wherever you might be around the globe, we thank you, each and every individual one of you, for being with us here this evening. So we shared the program out, if you were with us during the pre-production part of the program, the Facebook, I guess you would say the Facebook only part of the program, to now 77 different locations across the Facebook universe using the tools of the against them 77 places. So wherever you might be watching on Facebook, we thank you. We thank each and every individual one of you. You can stay right where you are and continue to watch and or listen in the background. It is, after all, Sunday evening here in the East Coast of the United States. It might be family dinner time for you, but you can stay right where you are and watch and listen. Or, as it appears 12 at this very moment of you are, you can come to our home Facebook page for all things The Kennedy Effect and join the live chat. That other side of information is the home Facebook page for all things The Kennedy Effect. That other side of information. Come to the live chat. You can ask questions, agree, disagree, yell, scream, have a go. Join the chat. Chat with each other. Chat with me. Even say hello to George. Say hello to April and talk to us. Interact with the program. This program was never designed or meant to be a lecture. If you want to get lectured, you can go to NPR. NPR is a wonderful, wonderful outlet. I listen to it. I enjoy it greatly. If you want to be lectured, that's the place to go. We want this to be an interactive program. So you can come to that other side of information, and interact with us and be part of the program. Or stay right where you are, continue to listen and watch and enjoy yourself. To our sisters, brothers, friends, and family at hot101.net, thank you again for welcoming us onto your devices, your smart speakers, your laptops, phones, tablets, smart headphones, however it is that you consume hot101.net. We are proud to be the flagship talk program for hot101.net, the rebirth of talk programming on hot101.net. To DJ Lex, DJ Earl, and April Riddick for making us part of the hot101.net family. We are eternally grateful. Each and every single hot101.net listener, literally around the globe, we are thankful for you. You, hot101.net family, can also take in the program through Facebook as well at the really wonderful and active and well done hot101.net Facebook page. You can find us there. You can come to our home Facebook page. And there are certainly other ways for you to join the program, even if you are just taking in the audio portion of the program. You don't need to take in the video part to join the program. You can join us. You can live tweet the program. Let me back up. If you don't know how to listen to hot101.net, it is certainly very, very easy. And hot101.net is always there for you 24/7, all the great music, and what will be an expanding talk platform as well, with more and more great talk shows coming your way. Some that have spun off right out of our own program right here, which I'm actually very, very proud of and humbled by the way. That'll be coming, and we'll be talking about that as we move on through the weeks. We'll be promoting and talking about those programs as we go ahead. But if you don't know how to listen to hot101.net, it is really very simple, and you should be listening. All the great music and all the new talk coming your way. You can go to the main website at hot101.net. You can use the apps for hot101.net. If you have an Apple device, just go to the Apple App Store and search for hot101.net. If you have an Android device, go to the Google Play Store and search for hot101.net. Or across all devices, you can download the TuneIn Radio app and just search within the TuneIn Radio app for hot101.net, and it works everywhere and sounds fantastic. How else do you interact with the program? Well, very, very simple. So many different ways. The ever expanding Kennedy Effect universe. There is the email address. thatotherkennedy@gmail.com is the email address for all things having to do with this program. If you want to send a question, a comment, a rant, an editorial, a commentary, you want to yell, scream, you want to agree, you want to compliment, you want to criticize, guest suggestions, show topic suggestions, anything anything having to do with the program, have a go. You can email us, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. Right in front of me on my very haggard Windows laptop that George has done everything to breathe life into, and it's going, it's sort of working. It's going. It's working to a point anyway, isn't it? That said, the Twitters, said the old guy, as the old folks refer to it, the Twitters is open right now, right in front of me. You can live tweet us right now. If you go to Twitter and search for That Other Side of Information, you will find us. And our Twitter handle directly is @ThatKennedyTalk. Yet another way for you to reach us here on the program. You can live tweet us. Again, am I sounding repetitive? Do you see a pattern developing here? Well, that's because I am laying down a pattern here for you. You can live tweet us. Again, questions, comments, commentary, yell, scream, agree, disagree, show suggestions, guest suggestions. The Twitter, That Other Side of Information, @ThatKennedyTalk is another way to reach and interact with the program. We want to hear from you. And finally, the bane of my existence. Although we did have two last week, which was pretty exciting. The phone line, you will notice, if you are taking in the video portion of the program, you will notice that the phone line is right up on the screen, straight out of the gate on the program. No hesitating this week. The phone line is open and up for you to call. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. And we don't normally put the phone number up straight out of the gate, so why is it up today? Well, I would like everyone out there in the Kennedy Effect audience to close their eyes. Let's do a little group experiment together. If everyone there could close their eyes. When you close your eyes, what do you see generally? Nothing. Darkness. That's our guest list for today. After quite an experiment, isn't it? After all of the effort to line up guests this week, I must have reached out between technical producer, associate producer, and long time friend, probably more than he would like to admit, between efforts between myself, George, and April to line up a guest for this week. Literally no one took the bait. So we have no guests currently lined up. There is a chance that someone is going to call in at some point and join us at some point, but at the moment we literally have no guests lined up for the program. So it is you, all of you out there around the globe, George and me, for at least the next hour, 45 minutes or so, at least to 7 o'clock, if not later. We usually like to go at least to 3 hours, but we will see how the program proceeds. That is the plan. That's all the show is going to be this evening. It's you and me on the phones, on the email, in the live chat, on Twitter. That's it. It's you and me. That's how it's going this week. So, folks, if you ever had anything that you want to say, this would be the time. So, what else happened this week? It was a pretty quiet week, right? I mean, not much else really occurred this week, did it? Did I miss something? Something happened in your neck of the woods? Did something happen that I missed? Anything big? Any new changes? Well, of course, we all know it was inauguration week. And what did we think of that. Already the new administration has hit the ground running with plans for reactions to the COVID-19 crisis, plans to raise the minimum wage, plans to address, we have re-entered the World Health Organization to re-enter the Paris Climate Agreement. It is a very different feeling having a functioning government. And I've heard that a lot this week. You know, wow, how different is it to have a functioning government and to have daily press briefings and to have, you know, a president that seems like he's engaged, and to have, and boy, isn't it nice to be back to normal. And, you know, all of that is true. That is all true. But the funny thing about comparisons is, in order to look forward, you cannot help but look back. And there's no, you can't have a comparison without having something to compare it to, is it? So we can only speak about how normal the Biden administration is compared with how dysfunctional the Trump regime was. Daily press briefings are not new. They are the standard. Plans for dealing with pandemics are not new. They are supposed to be the standards. In fact, pandemics are crises at a level to which that only a national government can deal, similar to wars, economic depressions. These are situations, these are crises, these are issues that only a national, a federal level government can deal. And so our general and collective sigh of relief at having a government actually doing these things, and for, you know, again, let's be honest, the previous regime, and it was not an administration because it didn't administer anything, it was a regime. It was only 4 years. It may have felt like 40 or 400, but it was only 4. We may have felt so out of sorts and so different and so thrown, so disheveled, so, well, just, I can't think of any more words than that. You can feel free to suggest any that you wish. That this return to normal almost seems new, but it's not new. It's how the federal government is supposed to run. So we should not, while we should be thankful, we shouldn't be surprised. This is how a federal government is supposed to run. And what we should be realizing, in my estimation, is that the complete lack of plan, the complete lack of effort, the complete lack of administration the complete lack of governing, the complete lack of leadership by the previous regime was not just incompetence, although there was a good deal of that. It was not just an accident, although it was a bit of that, because as is being well documented, Trump never expected to get elected in the first place. In fact, he had no victory speech prepared for election night 2016. It was, in fact, a plan. The complete lack of governing was, in fact, the governing. It was, in fact, the plan. Many of you may remember when the Trump regime took office, Steve Bannon saying that one of the Trump regime's goals was to deconstruct the administrative state. Well, they certainly did. And they did so intentionally. So when we look at what this new Biden administration is doing, and as we say to ourselves, oh, isn't this wonderful? Look at all the new things. No, not new, normal. And not a new normal, but not new, but a return to normal. And that we must admit to ourselves that what we have suffered over the past 4 years was not an accident, but a plan. Now, I've postulated to you, in fact, I haven't postulated, I'd put it forth as my conclusion. I don't really think it's up for discussion. This is just what I put this forth now as a this is what it is now, in my opinion. I'm not even putting it for, frankly, we can discuss it, we can argue about it, you could disagree, God knows. But I think this just is what it is now. I don't really think it's a theory, and I don't really think it's up for much discussion, to be honest. When we talk, there's been so much talk this week about what is left of the Republican Party. Where do they go from here? The split in the party, the different factions within the party. And I believe that most of us are missing something. We're missing I don't think the word party even applies anymore. This is a corporation. The Republicans are now a corporation. What is the main goal of a corporation? Of a public or a private corporation, for that matter? It's to make profit. And my nose is itchy, so I'm either going to kiss a fool or get in a fight. Isn't that the old saying? You're going to kiss a fool or get in a fight? I guess that makes me the fool, and I guess I'm going to get in a fight. Maybe that means somebody's going to call and have a go. It seems to me that the Republican, what has been generally considered to be the Republican Party structure, their lone and sole goal, that remains is to steer as much money as humanly possible toward the top 1% and the largest corporations, both in the country and around the globe. And so what does that sound like? If we were to take that structure and move it out of the realm of government, what would it sound like to you? Well, it would sound like a corporation. Corporate officers, especially in a post-Reagan era, where they can be paid in stock and where corporate responsibilities have shifted from community and national responsibilities to purely profit-driven responsibilities, stockholder responsibilities. When a corporation, when all it is concerned with is its stock price and producing as much profit as possible for its stockholders, well, isn't that essentially what Republicans are doing within government? Steering as much wealth, power, money, profit toward the top as they can get away with it, for the promise of some of that money coming back to them in the form of campaign contributions and cushy jobs on corporate boards and lobbying positions when they decide to leave government. Isn't that basically what we're talking about? We've heard a lot since 6 January about threats to democracy, sedition, insurrection, treason. All three words of which are extremely applicable. And not just because they're buzzwords and they sound pretty and they sound inflammatory and they make people listen, but because they're true. But this is what we're left with. One of the biggest threats to this democracy is that we don't have two functioning parties anymore. We have one. There is one remaining functioning political party with any power to it whatsoever, and that is the Democratic Party. And by the way, a Democratic Party which is in and of itself not perfect, but in a nation that only had two predominant, wildly predominant, powerful political parties, only one's left. There's only one left that has any functionality. And that's not good for democracy. And where we find ourselves lucky about that is that fortunately the one that's functioning is the one that actually wants people to vote, wants people to actually earn a few bucks, wants people to not get arbitrarily killed at work or have a job in the first damn place. Forgot to turn the little accent lights on. So let me offer that to you to think about as we proceed through the program. I offer that main theme out to you as we proceed and make our way through the program. 5:31 Eastern Time. in the United States, wherever you are around the world. If it is morning, afternoon, evening, or heck, even if it's already Monday where you might be listening. And we do, by the way, have listeners around the globe. We welcome you yet again to the Kennedy Effect, this time for the 24th of January, 2021, wherever you may be watching on Facebook. We now share the program. I shared the program, if you were with us before 5 p.m. on Facebook, and you get to see the pre-production bits of the program, which are boring as sin, I promise you. Usually not something that you tell people about your own program, but let's just be blunt. It is not fun to watch me share the program around Facebook. You know, I have to say, I had a conversation with Joy Mann, one of our guests from last week. During the week, we were chatting over Messenger. I don't know why, you know, Facebook probably has some of the best, if not the best, computer programmers, computer writers on the planet. You think they would know how to create a one-button punch to share and that you could build a share list, but apparently you can. You have to do it all one by one. But anyway, we shared the program too. 77 different locations. I believe that is a new high for us, and I am very, very grateful. And I hope that it all goes, that you, every single one of those 77 places that I sent it, including, I believe, about 10 national outlets. I hope you are seeing the program. I hope, because some of them are private and they need approval to be posted. So I hope you are seeing the program. I hope you are enjoying it. And I hope you will continue to join us and know that we are here live each Sunday from 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Wherever you might be watching the program right now, in any one of those 76, really, I guess, if you include our home base, 76 different locations. Stay right there. Enjoy, listen, watch in the background, listen in the background while you're having dinner, while you're enjoying. You might have one eye on the NFL, one eye on us. We appreciate that very much. You can stay right there. However, if you would like to come to the live chat and talk to each other, talk to me, talk to George, enter your comments, questions, scream, yell, agree, disagree, compliments, questions, concerns, guest suggestions, show suggestions, anything that you want to do, interact with the program. You can come to our home Facebook page for all things The Kennedy Effect. That would be that other side of information. Come to that other side of information. There are, I see 9 folks in the live chat right now, including Laura, who remembered what time we're actually on the air, who tells us that she is listening as she is preparing dinner. We appreciate that very much, my dear friend Laura. Thank you for being here. To our sisters and brothers, friends and family on hot101.net, thank you. All around the globe, thank you for being here. Now, if you are not familiar with hot101.net, it's a piece of cake, folks. You can listen to hot101.net very, very simply. Go to the main website, which would be, you got it, hot101.net. You can listen to hot101.net through their apps. If you have an Apple device, go to the Apple App Store and search for and download the hot101.net app. If you have an Android device, I almost said if you have a Google device, that's not quite right. If you have an Android device, go to the Google Play Store, which is what he meant, and search for hot101.net, or perhaps an easier way, if you prefer, you can download the TuneIn Radio app, and within the TuneIn Radio app, just search for hot101.net. Another way to reach the program, you can email us. Questions, concerns, yell, agree, disagree. thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. Also, if you have a product, a business, a service, anything that you want to advertise on this program, that is the best way to get a hold of us. thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. And that information, if you are watching, is right over my left shoulder. Did you catch all that? We did a lot of rights and lefts there. Took a lot of turns on that one. I hope you kept up with us on there. Over my left shoulder is the paper, which you can possibly read. It might be a little small type for you on your screen. You can email us, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. If you have a product, service, a business that you want to advertise on this program to what is quite literally a global audience. You can live tweet us right now. I have the Twitter page open right in front of me. Search for That Other Side of Information. Our Twitter handle is @ThatKennedyTalk. Is it? Yes. Oh my goodness, George. I think it's @ThatKennedyTalk. I'm looking. Yes, thank you. I'm just looking right now. @ThatKennedyTalk. And by the way, we're up to a whopping 20 followers. I can only imagine that when I tweet directly at other people, they must be wondering if I'm some type of Russian bot at this point. I certainly hope not. We have a whopping 20. We have a whopping 20 followers. Hey, give us a follow, by the way, on Twitter if you are so inclined. It is yet another way to get info, some articles. I do retweet some really interesting stuff from the folks that I follow. Perhaps I follow people that you don't. We retweet some of that stuff. And what else? Oh, if you don't get to see the program live, you can always catch the recorded versions of the program at what has become our repository, our library for all the recorded programs, and that is our YouTube channel. Yes, we do. We have a YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com, That Other Side of Information. That Other Side of Information. Do you see a pattern, folks? You got it. That Other Side of Information. And you will find all the recorded programs of the Kennedy Effect. If you missed a program, if there was an interview that perhaps you came in partway through the program and missed something, that's the place to come, or that's the place to go to, I should say, and see all of the interviews if you missed any of it. YouTube, our YouTube channel, That Other Side of Information. You can give us a like and a subscribe there too. That always helps. We appreciate that as well. You don't have to be a loyal watcher of the YouTube channel, but you can still give us a quick and a like over at YouTube. You can join the Facebook page too, by the way. We're over 700 members. I enjoy that. That's nice to see. Invite folks to be there. You can invite folks. That it is a public group, but we also have members who can do things that other folks can't. You can, so Twitter follow, there's just a bunch. There's no way that you can't really miss us if you try to find us. So what are you thinking, everybody? The phone line is open, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189, 227-9189 is you, George, and myself for the duration of the program. That's how it's looking. What are you thinking? What are you thinking about the events? I guess events is probably the best way to put it, of the last week. The inauguration, how the inauguration went itself, how the and where we are now. What, when you wake up in the morning, do you feel better? Are you more relaxed? Does the air seem cleaner? And what do you think about what I'm putting forth? That, in fact, the dangers to our democracy are not just what we saw on 6 January, but the fact that, at least in my mind, we only have one functioning political party remaining in the United States. One. And I imagine, there are fans of the Libertarians and the Greens who would beg to argue with me. But let's be honest, the power base simply isn't there. The voter base simply isn't there. And I'm not here to argue with you that the Democratic Party itself is perfect. It is far from it. There's still too many, properly too many people at the top of the party who are left from the 90s. The corporate wing still inhabits too much of our party. The 90s wing, the corporate wing, the third, quote unquote, third way wing is still entirely too powerful and runs entirely too much of our party. But that said, and I do think that the Democratic Party, certainly from the ground level, is properly more progressive and New Deal, made up of New Deal Democrats, more so than anyone would have you believe. But at the same time, I also happen to believe that this, what the media would like you to believe, is this internal civil war. And I don't use that term lightly, and I don't use it hyperbolically, that this internal strife inside the Democratic Party between progressives and this third way is as hot a war, as hot a divide as the media would have you believe, because it's good press, it's good, it's clickbait, it's a good watch. I believe the Democratic Party is, especially again from the ground up, is much more progressive than the media would have you believe. But I also think the internal strife inside our party is not, the hot war that the media would have you believe either. So there is that we can talk about. As for the some comments coming out of the chat, Laura mentions Bernie Sanders mittens. You aren't kidding. And if that didn't become the most prolific set of memes that you could ever have imagined, and including the video, if anyone saw it, I got through about 10 seconds of it. I was in stitches. The video that someone cropped and somebody put some hard work in on it, and George, being the IT guy that he is, can probably explain how much work that really took, of Bernie and Demi Moore in the scene from Ghost, working on the cup, working on the ceramic cup, and Bernie's in his mittens as they form the cup. I mean, it's side-splitting and disturbing somehow all at the same time. I mean, it's truly, it's side-splittingly funny and disturbing all at the same time. Now, I've lost it, unfortunately. Someone had sent, I'm not going to be able to find it now, unfortunately. I don't know if somebody had sent to me a picture that Bernie had sold the patterns of I think it was the patterns of those mittens get turned into sweaters or something, and then he donated all of that. They sold out immediately, and then he donated that money to I can't find it now. Of course I can't find it. And this is really bad radio for me to be searching around and looking for it, but there it is. Okay, I got it. Bernie Sanders, threw his meme on a sweatshirt, charged $45 for it. It sold out immediately, in all sizes, and then donated 100% of the proceeds to Meals on Wheels of Vermont. Now, I don't know which name it was exactly that he put on a sweatshirt, but I'm sure it had something to do with the mittens. And does it really matter, which particular one he did? I'm not sure that it does, but he did. Charged $45 for it. I'm guessing it had something to do with the 45th occupier of the White House, perhaps. Little jab there. Bernie's always, a good one for a shot here and there. And then donated to Meals on Wheels of Vermont. That's how you get it done. That's how you get it done. And how about, as part of President Biden's plan, his $1.9 trillion plan to rescue, well, it's really a comprehensive plan, isn't it? For pandemic relief and economic relief for the nation. Because, folks, as I mentioned last week, I no longer have health coverage. I can't afford it. And as my company of over 17 years closed due to this pandemic, my company was based, our work was based on the ability of people to gather in one space. Special events, parties, film shoots, award shows. As soon as all of that went away, so did my company. And like most people in the nation, my health insurance was through my employer. I paid the COBRA as long as I could and finally ran out of money. And it came down to a choice between the mortgage and health insurance. And I find it's probably, at least I would postulate, it's quite difficult to be healthy when you have no roof over your head. So I made that choice. So why do I tell you all this? Folks, it's my belief, and there is a lot of strong economic data, evidence, dare I say science. This nation is in a proper economic depression. At least for the bottom economic 90 to 99%. If you're part of the top 1%, or arguably as much as the top 10%, you're okay. Remember that we've created 3, 4, it might be 4 now, new billionaires since the proper onset of this pandemic in March. $1 trillion of new wealth has gone to the top 1% since the onset of this pandemic. At the same time that 40 million people have lost, 20 million-ish people have lost health insurance, 40 million have lost jobs or had to take lesser jobs, part-time jobs, in my case, a temporary job. The number of things, the number of issues, the number of pillars of this economy that have been exposed to have been made out of crepe paper as a result of this pandemic, having exposed them, is truly shocking. And so what has the Republican Corporation done? President Biden puts out his plan, 1.9 trillion. It includes a rise in the minimum wage. It includes infrastructure spending. It includes expanded unemployment benefit, longer moratoriums on foreclosures and evictions, some, but not nearly enough, some student debt forgiveness. And the Republican Corporation says, we can't afford that. But what about the debt? What about the deficit? The Trump regime piled $8 trillion in new debt on us in just 4 years. The tax cut alone, $2 trillion, with 83 to 87%. I actually think it's higher. I think it's closer to 93% of the benefits going to the top 1% and to the largest corporation. And oh, by the way, you all got a tax increase. And why do I say all of you? There might be some folks in my audience. I tend to think it's not really the demographic of my audience, but there might be some folks in my audience who make more than 75,000. I've gotten conflicting figures this week, which I find strange. That make more than $70,000 or $75,000 a year. If you make less, you got a tax increase beginning January 1st of 2021. And that was part of the Republican, Trump, Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell tax cut bill of 2017. And it intentionally waited for the tax increases to begin until after the 2020 general election, so that if the Trump regime was ousted, Democrats could be blamed for the tax increase. Well, as you know, we do history here, we do facts here, we do data here. We attempt to do as little speculation as humanly possible. So those, my friends, are facts. If you make less than $70,000, $75,000 was the original that I had heard, you got a tax increase. Compliments of the Republican Corporation, the Trump regime, Mitch McConnell, and Paul Ryan, and the Koch brothers, and Sheldon Adelson, the now late Sheldon Adelson, boo-hoo, the Mercers, Americans for Tax Fairness, the Heritage Foundation. You got a tax increase. And by the way, if you make less than $30,000, you got an even larger tax increase. Because by the way, the $2 trillion tax cut had to get paid for somehow, didn't it? Folks, the London School of Economics did a very deep dive, a very detailed study of the effects of trickle-down economics. And why would London School do this? Because the UK is suffering from this as well. Margaret Thatcher brought this to the UK as well. In fact, she started it before Reagan started it here, going back to the late 70s. crushing unions, cutting taxes on rich people, trying to privatize industries, privatize government functions. She started it there before we started it here. Flipping, the New Deal on its head, destroying it, breaking it down, trying to erase it from history. They started it there before we started it here. And the London School did a very detailed study on the effects of trickle down. And as detailed as this study is, it still only took them, I think it's a 70-page, I think it's only a 70-page study. It's still only, or maybe it's only 47 pages. I posted it, that other side of information. You can read it anytime that you wish. You might have to scroll down quite a bit to find it now at this point, but you can scroll and find it. I'm working from memory though. It's either, my numbers might be transposed. It's either 47 pages or 74 pages. It still only took them that few number of pages to determine that something that we all knew, especially if we've been living with it, that trickle-down economics is a lie. It is a lie. It is a myth, and it does not work. You cannot cut taxes on rich people and somehow raise revenues. You cannot stimulate an economy by cutting taxes on rich people and corporations and then extracting that wealth from the lower income classes. Because the lower income classes need 100% of their income to survive. When we think of all the small businesses that are not going to survive this pandemic, it's not just the pandemic that's going to put them out of business. It's the fact that the wealth that the lower and what's left of the middle class would be spending in those small businesses has been taken from them and sent to the top. That's the problem. How do you spend money in a business when you have none? It's not just this pandemic that has destroyed small business. It's 40 years of Reaganism. All of the economic data shows that in nations where the top marginal tax rate is 50% or higher, have more stable, thriving, and equitable economies. The top marginal tax rate in the United States was 74% when Reagan came to power, and he lowered it down to 25%, and then raised taxes on the lower and middle classes disproportionately to make up the money. The exact opposite of everything you should do in a fair and equitable society, because he didn't want one, and because he didn't care about people like you and me. So bravo to the Biden administration for this plan, not just to say that we have to deal with this pandemic, but to say that we have to do something, anything, to begin to rebalance the scales. The cost of labor as a percentage of finished goods in this country has not been this low since the late 1800s, since before the earnest beginning of the union movement in this country. Then again, the percentage of private sector union workers has never been this low since the beginning of the union movement in this country. Do you see a correlation there, folks? Because there is one. 6:01 Eastern Time in the Eastern Time Zone. That's why he said 6:01 Eastern Time. 6:01 Eastern Time in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in the United States, from my humble second bedroom in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in these United States, on planet Earth, the only one we have, the third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. The Kennedy effect for 24 January 2021, the dawn of a new day in the United States. But how much of a new day? How are you feeling? Tell me what you're thinking. How did you feel Wednesday morning? What did you think of the poem by the nation's first youth national poet laureate, Amanda Gorman, which for me was the singular, far and away highlight of the day? Let's talk about it. You can live tweet the program. Go to twitter.com and search for That Other Side of Information. Our Twitter handle is @ThatKennedyTalk. You can email the program, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. That email address, by the way, is also the best way to contact the program if you are looking to advertise to what is literally a global audience through this program. So if you have a product or a service, a business, you name it, you want to advertise on this program, the best way to get a hold of us and discuss those possibilities is our email address, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. Live tweet the program @ThatKennedyTalk. The live chat on Facebook is open wherever you may be watching us across the now 75 plus places that we share the program. Stay right there. Enjoy. Listen. We hope you're having a wonderful Sunday evening. If you are with friends or family, even if you are video connecting with friends and family on a different device and listening, watching us on another one, we thank you very much for being with us and welcoming us into your lives on yet another Sunday evening. You can stay right there and watch wherever you are watching, but if you would like to be part of the live chat, you need to come to our home Facebook page for all things The Kennedy Effect, and that is also titled That Other Side of Information. We've tried to title everything across all of our social media platforms the same thing to make it easy for you to remember and easy for you to find. So our home group Facebook page is That Other Side of Information. That Other Side of Information. What else am I forgetting? Oh, and on your screens, if you are watching the video portion, you will see that the phone number is on your screen. It is live and open. And did I miss anybody? I did not. You can, yeah, did I miss somebody? How did I miss somebody? Supposedly I have a voicemail. How is that? No. Did I? No, I don't think I did. No, I didn't. That was from another time. I think. Interesting. No, that actually was from, interesting. That was from tonight. I somehow missed a call. 18:02 GMT. Interesting. Anyway, I somehow missed a call. That's very, very interesting. I don't know how that happened. That said, the phone line is open. You can call us. If you are watching us on Facebook, the phone line is on your screen. And if you are listening to just the audio portion of the program, my friends at hot101.net let me give you that phone number. It is 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. So let's think about this. If you are still one of the rare folks out there that is a union member, are you in the private sector and a member of a union, not a government union? Are you in the private sector and a member of a union? Did you know, if you are, by the way, did you know that there are only less than 6% of you left? When Reagan came to power, the percentage of American workers in the private sector that were unionized was just under 38%. It's about 37.6, I believe it was, 37.4, 37.6%. After 40 years now of Reaganism and the outright war that was declared on unions, that number is now under 6%. So less than 6% of the private sector workforce are still part of unions. And that's not an accident. That was a plan. And what it has done is to drive wages so low, to kill healthcare for so many, to all but end job security, end collective bargaining. These are not accidents. These things did not happen in a vacuum. They were done intentionally. They were done with the purpose of destroying one of the essential, I guess you'd say, essential funding sources of the Democratic Party, which was unions. And less unions means less union dues, which means less money for unions to put into the campaign coffers of Democratic candidates. Same idea with trickle down. If we cut taxes on rich people, the more money that they will have to then take a portion of that money and turn it back into the campaign coffers of Republican candidates. And since healthcare, health insurance, it's not really care, since health insurance, health banks are tied to employment, many of which were negotiated by unions, the less unions we have, the less their ability to bargain collectively or otherwise. then the less people that we have to cover, the less expenditures that these health banks have to make. We can just collect premiums and never have to pay anything out. It's just all profit. Because let's remember, every dollar of profit by a quote unquote health insurance company, and again, there's nothing to do with insurance, it's a bank, but every dollar of profit that they report, because so many of them are publicly traded, so they have to report their profits. Every time you see the reports by one of these health insurance giants of profits, and they're in the billions, tens of billions normally, and you see those stock prices shoot through the roof, every time you see those, every dollar of that is a dollar of denied care. Oh, you need an MRI because you broke an ankle, did a ligament, something like that. No, your insurance says no, you don't. That's denied care. That's a test they won't pay for. That's profit in their pocket. Doctor says you need a surgery. Insurance company says, nope, we don't think so. Profits go up. It's dollars of denied care. The Koch brothers did a study through the Heritage Foundation. I think they did it through the Heritage Foundation, where they did a real factual study on how much Medicare for All would cost the United States. What would it cost if we went to a single payer system? What they found is that it would save if they did a Bernie Sanders, Pramila Jayapal style program in the United States, what would it cost? What they found was that it would actually save the nation about over $10 trillion. Wow, you might be saying to yourself, well, I never heard that study. I never saw that study. No, you didn't. Because when the Kochs found out about that and got the results of that study, they buried the study and tried everything they could not to release it to the public, because they didn't want you to know the truth. They didn't want you to know that you, America, would actually save money with a single payer system. But that's the truth. If this pandemic has not laid bare that we need a single payer system, I don't know what does. The interesting bit, from my point of view, is that we actually need to go further than that. And we need a national health service like the United Kingdom, the UK, Great Britain, where everything is owned and managed centrally. But I'll take single payer if that's all we can get to. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. Let me glance through the chat here. Mark mentions that in policy making, neoliberalism was part of a paradigm shift away from the prevailing Keynesian economic consensus that prior to the persistent stagflation of the 1970s. You are not incorrect about that. There was a hefty inflation problem in the 70s. Part of that being, of course, the oil embargo and the tensions with the Arab oil producing nations were in large part had a lot to do with it. Beginning in the early 1980s, the Reagan administration and Thatcher governments implemented a series of neoliberal economic reforms to counter that. I would say that was, Mark, I would say to you that was a very convenient excuse, and that their plan entirely from the beginning was to reverse and destroy what was the large social safety net state, the Labour government state in the UK, and what was left of the New Deal here in the United States. The inflation that you are discussing, which was a real problem in the 70s, was an excuse, but it was not, those policies were not the remedy. I would reply to you, Mark, in this fashion, and not just to you directly to make this sound accusatory. That's certainly not my goal here. Isn't it funny, if you think about it, that the Republican answer to any economic condition are tax cuts? President Clinton leaves office with a budget surplus. President Bush says, well, we should cut taxes and give that money back to the American people. It's their money. Then we have an economic slowdown during the Bush years, and his answer to stimulate the economy is, let's cut taxes and put more money in the hands of people. Of course, both tax cuts were tax cuts overwhelmingly for the top 1%. The same answer cannot be the same answer for both conditions. It can't work for both. It cannot work to say, and by the way, if you say I'm going to cut these taxes and give the money back to the people because we have a surplus, then you're admitting that you're cutting revenues by cutting taxes. It can't be both. As I have mentioned on this program repeatedly, if we just take the income taxes alone, the income tax cuts alone, from Reagan, first Bush, second Bush, and the Trump regime, just the income tax cuts. We're not discussing capital gains, the ability to offshore monies, corporate cuts, none of that. Cuts in the inheritance tax, cuts in the estate tax. Just the income tax cuts over the last 40 years. You're talking about $40 trillion. Trillion dollars. What would the middle class be if we had that $40 trillion? Mark also mentions that the Democratic Party has been complicit in erasing the middle class. I would agree, but not to the extent to which you're implying. The Democratic presidents since 1980, it's the last 32 years. I just heard Thom Hartmann talk about this. In the last 32 years, I'm doing this from memory. I am doing this from memory. Does everybody hear me? I'm doing this from memory. So please feel free to fact check me, correct me if I have this wrong. I'm doing this from memory. In the last 32 years, 16 years of Republican presidents, 16 years of Democratic presidents. Those Republican presidents have lost. They are at a net negative 3.7-ish million jobs. The Democratic presidents are at a plus 32, 34 million jobs. But even with that said, those Democratic presidents did not do enough to reverse Reaganism. Did they try to hold it in place? Yes. President Clinton raised the top marginal tax rate while he cut taxes on the bottom, on the lower tax rates. He raised taxes on the rich, lowered taxes on the other brackets, on the other levels, on the other percentages. Insert whatever term you feel comfortable with here. That was the basis of his economic plan. Raised taxes on the top marginal tax rates, raised them on the richest among us, cut them on everyone else. But that still wasn't enough to reverse Reaganism, which is exactly what needs to be done. I have told you all here on this program, week after week after week after week, that the answers to our economic problems are in our own history. The New Deal was wildly successful. No, it was not equally successful for our brothers and sisters of color. No, it was not. I'm saying that straight out of the gate. But it was certainly more equitable toward them than 40 years of Reaganism has been. And that might sound like a bit of whataboutism, but it's also the truth. We do a lot of that here. We do all of that here. The New Deal was not perfect for our brothers and sisters of color, but it is certainly did much more for them than Reaganism ever has. The answers to what is wrong with our country, to what's missing in our country, to the inequities of our country are in our own history. Restoration of the voting, full restoration of the Voting Rights Act without the ability of the Supreme Court to apply judicial review, something that the Congress can do by simply inserting one line into the bill that says that this legislation shall not be subject to review by the Supreme Court. Raising the top marginal tax rate back to at least 50%, if not higher, I would say 74 or even 91%, where it was during the Roosevelt and Eisenhower eras. Not allowing CEOs to be paid in stock, but they have to receive a regular, quote unquote, cash paycheck like all the rest of us. No more stock payments. And then when you sell the stock, you only have to pay 15% on it, like capital gains tax rate. No, income tax. You have to get paid a paycheck. We can do these things because history shows us that they work. We've done them already. The answers to our problems are in our own history. We need only have the courage to put them into place. And I've said here before too, if you're a candidate, you don't, You rarely, if ever, take the stage in front of a crowd of people and say, I want to march us back to the past. It's usually not a very good campaign tool. But it's probably not how you would message it. But the answers to our modern day inequities and problems are in our own history. They're right there. The New Deal gives us all the answers that we need. It gives us all the answers that we need. They're right there in front of us. We need only the courage to do it. And I keep hearing that the term or the policy proposal that is the Green New Deal has become somehow publicly toxic. We have to remember, I believe as Democrats, as Democratic candidates, as Democratic office holders, as members of the Democratic Party, as progressives, even as independents, and as embarrassed Republicans, the genius of the Green New Deal is not the green part, it's the New Deal. The Green New Deal uses the existential threat crisis of global climate catastrophe to reset this economy. First, the United States economy, and eventually the global economy. The New Deal did not just save the United States economy from the Great Depression, it saved the global economy from the Great Depression. It saved capitalism from itself. I've told you here that the United States is an outlier in nearly every way. And one of those ways is the depths to which that we do not regulate capitalism here, that it is a libertarian free-for-all. There are other capitalist nations around the globe, and they all are more stable and infinitely more equitable. They have longer lifespans, lower infant mortality rates, they're better educated, lower rates of unwanted pregnancy, lower divorce rates, lower crime rates, white-collar crime rates than the United States, because they regulate, they protect their own capitalist systems. They protect those systems from themselves. They protect the least among them from that system, and they protect the system itself from itself. They guard against their own greed. And we can do that here because we've done it before. (6:30 Eastern Time in the United States. And this is the Kennedy Effect for the 24th of January, 2021. Just you, George, and I this week. No guests. It's just all of us together, just the family together here on a Sunday evening. Wherever you may be watching across the Facebook universe, we thank you very, very much for being there. You can stay right where you are, enjoy, watch in the background, listen in the background, perhaps while you're having dinner or preparing dinner for that matter. However, anywhere of the 77 places that I shared the program before we went live at 5 p.m., I can remember the first week, the very first program, the inaugural program. I believe I shared the program to maybe 23 places, and I thought that was a ton. I thought that was a boatload. Today we shared to 77 different Facebook outlets, timelines, national groups, national pages, private groups, and public groups across the nation and around the world. You can stay right where you are, keep watching, keep enjoying. However, if you would like to join the live chat like Mark has, like Laura has, like Kristen has, like Darlene has, like Ashley has, you can come to our home group Facebook page, That Other Side of Information. That Other Side of Information. You saw, actually, Laura put comments in the chat that we've read. Mark put comments in the chat that we've read. If you want to chat with me through there, we will read them. You can be part of the program. You can also tweet us. No one has done it in the time that we have been on Twitter, but you can do so. I have the Twitter page up in front of me. You can go to twitter.com and search for That Other Side of Information. See, just like the Facebook page, That Other Side of Information. And our Twitter handle is @ThatKennedyTalk. @ThatKennedyTalk. You can email the program, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. And that is our email for all things having to do with the program. If you should have a business, a product, a service that you would like to advertise to what is quite literally a global audience, you can do so right here through this program, and these dulcet tones can read that advertisement for you right here on this program. So you can email us, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. And of course, the phone line is open, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. To our sisters and brothers, friends and family at hot101.net, thank you for allowing us onto your devices, your smart speakers, into your cars, your homes, your workplaces, wherever it is that you consume hot101.net. We are proud and honored to be part of the hot101.net family. If you, the ever expanding hot101.net family, with more truly wonderful talk programming coming your way, in addition to the outstanding music that you have always been able to get on hot101.net. To DJ Earl, DJ Lex, and of course, my dear friend and executive producer of this program, April Riddick, we are proud, humbled, and very, very grateful to be part of the hot101.net family. If you do not know how to listen to hot101.net, go to the main website page, hot101.net. You can reach them through their various apps, the Apple App Store if you have an Apple device, the Google Play Store if you have an Android device, or you can download the TuneIn Radio app, which will work on all devices, and search for hot101.net. And that'll work on, I believe that works on your smart speakers, any type of device that you can use those apps through, you can listen to hot101.net. They also have a fantastic Facebook page, which is one of the Facebook pages that we share the video portion of this program to, as well, of course, as the audio. You don't just see pictures without sound. That wouldn't work too well. That would be the 1920s, wouldn't it? So you can do that. So again, the phone line is open, 267-227-9189. I believe this is the time that I'm going to ask George to enter the program. We are going to scan through the Facebook page and comment on some of the larger is the right word, perhaps more of the, I guess more prominent articles of the week that we posted for you as we review the last week. Obviously, the biggest story, of course, would be the inauguration. And, it's one thing that I have to say, I was very happy to see President Biden to speak about was disinformation. Openly talked about disinformation and lies and truth. And that's something that we all have a responsibility to work against. There are not two sets of facts. The earth is round. We are the third planet from the sun. Gravity is a thing. It exists. Trickle down is a lie and a myth. You cannot cut taxes and increase revenue. It doesn't work. It's a lie. Some of these things are simply lies, and there is no other way to take it. There is not a different set of facts. There is not room for interpretation. And to see an administration come in taking over for the immediate past regime that tried to sell a nation and did a very good job on, and I mean literally selling a nation on the premise, on the theory that there are two sets of parallel facts. There are not. There are things that we can spin. There are things that we can disagree about. There are things that can be interpreted. If a bird of paradise does a dance in the middle of the forest, we can interpret that as biologists about what that dance might mean. It might be a mating dance. It might be a broken foot. We can interpret these things in different ways. We can take an ancient Dead Sea Scroll written in a dialect of ancient Hebrew and maybe misinterpret a word or two. And that word might be enough to change the entire perception of what a passage may mean. But the fact that the scroll is written in an ancient Hebrew dialect doesn't change. That fact is the same. So it was nice to see facts return to it was nice to see facts return. So anyway, George, are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Let's bring in technical producer, IT specialist, semi-co-host, scared to say friend for so long.
You know, that goes both ways. You know.
I have asked you, as we are guest list, he said, guest, since we are sans guest this week, to review our Facebook page and see what articles stood out to you that we could have a chat about them as we try to get up to 7 and see what happens past 7 o'clock. It's been a long hour and 40 minutes, I got to tell you. A monologue, an hour and 40-minute monologue. Try that, Conan O'Brien.
I did actually just post something that said party officials shaken after gunman targets Montgomery County Democratic Committee office. This was actually on the news this week. I believe it was Josh Shapiro's office. Let's see, his committee office.
You've reminded me of something though. There was an I would have to look it up. There was a Maryland U.S. rep. His name is going to escape me. Who was under FBI investigation. Not that there's any investigation to do because the facts were quite evident. For insisting on bringing his firearm onto the House floor. Many of you will know that following the insurrection at the Capitol, the seditious insurrection at the Capitol, the attempt to halt the democratic process and end the functioning Congress as we know it. We should probably back up. One of the goals of the insurrectionists was to kill, not just kill Mike Pence and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, but to kill as many Democratic members of both chambers as they could find and get their hands on. With the goal being that all that would be left were Republican members, and that those Republican members, George texted me that you could have just said that now, that big ding is in there.
Sorry.
You could have just said that.
I try. Can't get a word in edgewise there.
It's Representative Andrew Harris from Maryland. He's from the more rural sections of Maryland. And even though Maryland is not a large state, it does have some very rural sections. The more, the western inland sections that are sandwiched between Pennsylvania and West Virginia. Their goal was to kill as many Democratic members of both chambers as they could get their hands on, with the goal being that only Republican members would remain, and that those Republican members would use the, I want to say it's the 12th Amendment, to overturn the election and reinstall Trump for a second term. They had actually built a gallows. What are gallows? A hanging post and a noose at the back entrance to the Capitol, with the assumption that if they had found any of these members, they would take them out back and quite literally hang them. Civil War style. Put them all through a mock trial and hang them on the spot. Following this, the speaker installed magnetometers, metal detectors. We go through them in the airport. and the entrance to the House floor. Now, firearms are sidearms, to the best of my knowledge, and someone is very, very welcome to correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. I do not believe that I am, but someone can correct me if they wish. Sidearms are illegal in the District of Columbia to begin with. Open carry, I believe, is illegal in the District of Columbia to begin with. While I believe you can carry inside the Capitol, firearms are not allowed on the House floor, and I do not believe that they ever have been, going back to the Civil War, when it was feared that the Southern secessionist members would just literally open fire in the middle of a House session. So the Speaker put magnetometers outside the House floor. You had to pass through the magnetometer in order to enter the House chamber. Several Republicans, including the QAnon members, the two new QAnon members, whom, while becoming cult heroes, are certainly not doing themselves any favors. And I have to say, even in the districts that they come from, I'd be stunned if they won re-election. Refused to go through them, causing, very interesting how Republicans, swim in the quote unquote Blue Lives Matter movement, but yet have done nothing but harass, physically assault, yell, scream, belittle Capitol Police because they won't go through the magnetometers. Well, as the magnetometers have been in place day after day, it seems to have become a bit less of an issue, except for Representative Harris, who decided he was going onto the floor with this gun, period. And I believe that he made it onto the floor. I should probably just Google it, look it up, or DuckDuckGo, and look it up and see if he made it to the floor. But he tried to get onto the floor with his firearm and drew the ire of the FBI, as he was taken to have been a threat to the Speaker. And frankly, he is a threat. He is a threat. How would you think, well, how would you take someone who just had to get onto the floor with that firearm? Here it is 2 days ago from the Washington Post. Let's have a look. Representative Andy Harris of Maryland sets off metal detector while carrying gun near the House. It's important to remember, too, that the group that stormed and sacked the Capitol the first time since 1814 were made up of a very large variety of people. They were not just uneducated, unemployed hicks from the hinterlands of the Confederacy. They were doctors, they were lawyers, they were seated elected officials throughout the country, police officers, ex-military. We had several legislators from here in the Commonwealth. Some that actually think and desperately want to be governor. The U.S. Capitol Police Department has launched an investigation after Representative Andy Harris, corporate Republican of Maryland, set off a magnetometer near the House chamber while carrying a concealed gun Thursday afternoon, according to a Hill staffer with knowledge of the incident. Harris set off the magnetometer installed after the deadly January 6th riot at the Capitol as he was on his way to the chamber, leading security to pat him down, said the staffer. who spoke on the condition of anonymity because he was not authorized to speak about the incident. And they are continuing to investigate. I don't know what there is to investigate. They found him with it. I mean, it seems pretty evident what happened to me, but I guess they have to say that for posterity or for. But that was the plan of this riot, was to kill as many Democrats and democratically elected officials as humanly possible for the sake of leaving nothing but Republicans for the plan that they would overturn the election and reinstall Trump. That was the plan. And we have to admit it. We have to have the strength to admit that that's what the plan was. We have to understand that that's what the plan was. And that's what and that brings me to another article, something that George and I were discussing before the program. George, I'm looking for the Perry article. I will find it. There we go. From the New York Times. Oh, dropped the phone. Really good. Pennsylvania lawmaker played key role in Trump's plot to oust the acting attorney general. Congressman's involvement underlined how far the former president was willing to go to overturn the election, and Democratic lawmakers have begun calling for investigations into those efforts. This is from the New York Times. Again, we don't read too much of this because there's copyrights and all that fun stuff. This is written by Katie Benner and Katie Edmondson. This is from last night. This is from last night, actually. Published on the 23rd and updated today, actually. When Representative Scott Perry joined his colleagues in a months-long campaign to undermine the results of the presidential election, promoting the quote-unquote Stop the Steal events and supporting an attempted overturn, millions of legally cast votes, he often took a backseat to higher profile loyalists in the Trump orbit. But Mr. Perry, an outspoken Pennsylvania Republican, played a significant role in the crisis that played out at the top of the Justice Department this month when Mr. Trump considered firing the acting attorney general and backed down only after top department officials threatened to resign. Mr. Perry is a member of the Freedom Caucus, who first made Trump aware of the relatively obscure Justice Department official Jeffrey Clark. The acting chief of civil division was sympathetic to Trump's view that the election had been stolen. They were going to elevate Mr. Clark into the role of taking over the Justice Department in the attempts of throwing the election to Mr. Trump. Now, there's the article that George posted that I am going to try to find. Where is that? Oh, here it is, George. Got it. This is from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Party officials shaken after gunman targets Montgomery County Democratic Committee office. This is written by Vinny Bela and Robert Moran. It was, this goes back to, it was updated on the 21st, so I don't know what the original posting date was. And I would mention that the Montgomery Democratic Committee is one place that allows us to share show announcements and show the program itself, as well as there's the Montgomery County, there's a Bernie Sanders group in Montgomery County that's always very kind and allows us to share show announcements and share the program there as well. In the chat, I want to say welcome to newcomers. Darcel is here. And it looks as though Liz has joined the program. So we say welcome to everyone. And again, if you would like to join the live live chat, you can do so. Come to our home Facebook page. That other side of information, you can send us questions, comments, contribute to the program, interact with us. We will read those comments. We'll read your questions. You can ask me a question. All of that fun stuff. As police investigated the shooting of the Montgomery County Democratic Committee headquarters in Norristown, county officials on Thursday condemned the violence as an attack on democracy, and party leaders said they would not stop their work. During a visit to the committee's headquarters on Wednesday afternoon, Executive Director Brian Levy discovered the building had been shot 3 times through its front plate glass window, according to Joe Foster, the committee's chair. 2 bullets struck a credenza and 1 hit a cardboard box. It was unclear when the shooting occurred, he added, but likely took place between Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. And that would have been during the time that the Q crowd and the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys, I can't believe I said Boogaloo on global radio, were calling for armed insurrections throughout the country. Liz mentions in the chat, most people who stormed the Capitol would not have been able to tell the difference between a democratically elected official or a Republican. They would have grabbed whomever they could to put to the gallows. Possibly, but I doubt it, to be honest. If you see enough of the videos that have been released throughout the time following the coup attempt, the armed insurrection, you would note that a lot of those folks knew exactly where they were going. There is the story, especially of Jim Clyburn, the United States House rep from South Carolina, who is also the House Majority Whip in the House leadership of the Democratic Party. He has 2 offices. He has his quote unquote regular congressional office that has his nameplate on it that has his name, and the George did this for me last week, and I'm not going to ask him to do it again. I want to say it's the 6th district of South Carolina, and it will say right on it, has his metal nameplate right on outside the door, and very plainly, clearly, openly displays that his office. But he also has what is an unmarked additional office closer to the House floor that is used by the Majority Whip. Folks that stormed the Capitol were asking and searching for the Whip's office, not his office, but they were looking for the Whip's office. So I would tend I would venture to guess that they knew where they were going. A lot of them knew where they were going. And let's not forget the stories that have been coming out from representatives like Mikey Sherrill of New Jersey, saying that there were tours being given of the Capitol prior to the storming of the Capitol, even though tours had been shut down due to the pandemic going back to March, and that the only way you could take a tour is if it was authorized, if not completely hosted and actually given by a member of Congress or their chief of staff. Liz also mentions, I heard a chilling story on NPR. An NPR reporter who was there that day spoke to a man who was visibly upset at the destruction of the Capitol building. He was telling others, this is the people's house, you shouldn't destroy it. And the reporter spoke to him. When the reporter spoke to him after he stormed off, she asked what his goal was for that day. He said he wasn't there to destroy property, but to see lawmakers hanging from the gallows 45454. This man was mortified by destruction of property, but had no problem with killing. Well, if that doesn't sum it up. John Pedora mentioned in the chat much earlier in the program, a comment I should have gotten to, that we are not out of the woods quite yet, and I agree with him 100%. There can be no unity without accountability. Justice and accountability. It is not an exaggeration to think, to know that if that crowd that had stormed the Capitol were people of color, there would have been hundreds dead. I have no doubt in my mind. There's the video that came out on, I believe it's the Vanity Fair, of the folks inside the Senate chamber. You'll see the folks outside one of the senators' desks taking pictures of a binder full of paperwork on their desk. They're taking pictures of each page and mentioning out loud that this is what Cruz would want us to do, Ted Cruz. And there's a Capitol cop in the chamber with them as people go up to the seat of the president of the Senate. And rather than do anything, now he's outnumbered. He's outnumbered. And as I recall the video from my own brain, he's not exactly the most in shape fellow. And again, to be fair, he is outnumbered. But as these insurrectionists keep going up to the dais in the Senate, you hear the cop keep saying, fine, take a picture and we need to get out of here. Please don't touch that. Can we please leave now? Take the picture. If you want to take a picture, then we need to get out. Is there any doubt in your mind that if those folks were people of color, any color, by the way, other than Caucasian, that they'd have been shot dead before they got anywhere near that chamber? Because you are in a fantasy land if you think that's not the truth. Absolute fantasy land. 7 p.m. Eastern time here in the United States. This is the Kennedy Effect for the 24th of January, 2021. It's just you and I today. Well, you, George, and I today. No guests. You, George, and I today. We've taken your comments and some questions through the Facebook chat. Phone line is open, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. If you are watching the program on Facebook, the phone number is right in front of you. For our sisters and brothers and friends and family on hot101.net, 267-227-9189. Our home Facebook page is That Other Side of Information. We've had some great comments and questions coming through there. We appreciate it very much. You can continue to chat with us through the Facebook live chat. We're happy to take it. Also, you can live tweet the program at That Kennedy Talk. That Other Side of Information at That Kennedy Talk is the handle. George, what else struck your fancy on the Facebook page this week?
I'm looking, stand by. One thing I didn't see on the Facebook page, I did see, it was, I forget what show it was, but I believe it was Bill Maher on Friday night. He had a retired FBI director on. I'm not sure, director of intelligence, but he asked him, are they going to try the rioters as terrorists? Are they going to change the law to try the Capitol rioters as terrorists, as domestic, well, domestic terrorists, but
The United
terrorists
States
nonetheless.
has no domestic terrorism law.
Okay.
Because, and that's an interesting thing, if the folks who had stormed the Capitol were of Muslim descent, they'd still be cleaning up the piles of dead bodies. 2.5 weeks later, we would still be cleaning up the piles of dead bodies. Let's be blunt. There is no specific domestic terrorism law because it has been bogged down in some legitimate, some, I think, I think you could argue some racist protections of these self-identified militia groups and white supremacist groups, and bogged down in so-called First Amendment arguments of not labeling people as domestic terrorists, and not nailing down that definition. It would seem to me that the definition of domestic terrorism is very much like the Supreme Court's definition, and hold on to your seats here, folks, and hang in with me. It would seem to me that the definition of domestic terrorism is very much like the Supreme Court's definition of child pornography. You know it when you see it. And what we saw on the 6th January is domestic terrorism. What we saw in the plot to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer, easy for me to say, of Michigan, try her and hang her, or shoot her by firing squad, one or the other, and supposedly seize control of the Michigan state government, is in fact domestic terrorism. What Timothy McVeigh did in Oklahoma City is domestic terrorism. You know it when you see it. The only argument I would potentially have is that what happened at the Capitol and what could have happened had the FBI not stopped the plot to Governor Whitmer actually arguably goes beyond domestic terrorism into full-blown treason and insurrection. But that still doesn't change the definition of it. You know it when you see it. You know it when you see it. What is drunk driving? You know it when you see it. What is child abuse? You know it when you see it. What is animal abuse? You know it when you see it. So what is domestic terrorism? You know it when you see it. We actually do not have domestic terrorism laws in this country. They have been stopped, stonewalled, bogged down over this definition, and dare I say this oversensitivity of the First Amendment and what I also perceive as these white supremacist protections, as it is these militias, these self-identified militias, because they're not government-sanctioned militias. The militias that are referred to in the Second Amendment are the National Guard, not these self-identified militias. It's a way to protect them, as they're largely white anyway. You know, if there was a militia group, or if there were as many militia groups made up purely of people of color as there are these white prepper out in the woods, it would be a scandal. It would be a scandal. You know, one of the original snowflakes, you know, that term became very popular during the Trump regime. One of the original snowflakes in this country was Reagan himself. He used to be able to carry a long rifle openly in California until the Black Panthers went to the Sacramento state capitol, armed. Within 2 weeks, the California legislature changed the law so that you couldn't carry those weapons anymore because a group of armed black men went to the Capitol. What focus that brought to the legislators? The fear of a group of armed black men. There might have been white collar people in that group that sacked the Capitol. And they might have wanted to kill every Democratic elected official they could get their hands on. But one of the major overtones of that event was race. This falsity, this scientific, non-existent falsity of race. And the fact that Trump and his regime convinced these people that people of color were here to take something from you, and that Democrats were taking something from you and using people of color to do it. We have a long way to go in this country. We stepped back decades in this country. Race has been fomented as a wedge issue since Reagan, but since Nixon, really, but no one did it as openly and as successfully as the Trump regime. I will be fascinated, and I may have to do regular internet searches on him. I will be fascinated to see what happens to Stephen Miller in the years going forth, the architect of all of the race baiting, or damn near all of it, that came out of the Trump regime. Let's see if we can make it to 7:30. George, what else struck your fancy on the Facebook page this week? I know one thing that we mentioned on the pre-show, so to speak. Maybe that's what we'll call it from now on, the pre-show. I know one thing that struck your fancy as you stroll through the Facebook page to see what else. One thing that you did mention, a bit of a good story. I talked to you folks about we don't just post political articles at that other side of information. I post, I'm not the only one that posts there either, by the way. April does, George will as well. There's a couple other people who will send me articles and then I approve them and you'll see their names there as well. We post photo essays and, pictures of the week, pictures from around the globe, stories about animals, astronomy, science, environment, and so on. And one of the nicer stories that we posted this week was a story out of Sweden where they will be building land bridges, land forested green overpasses over their motorways for animals to be able to cross without risking getting hit and smushed by motor vehicles. We actually, some of the folks who were kind enough to comment on the article at our Facebook page informed me that there actually is a land bridge like that on Interstate 78 in New Jersey. I honestly had no idea. I'm sure I've seen it and driven past it a million times because I've driven 78 so much and probably just didn't notice what it was. But there is a land bridge on 78 in New Jersey. It looks like an overpass. It looks just like you would see a rail bridge or a road going over the motorway. except that it is completely wooded or green. It is filled with dirt and trees and brush and such, whatever else, and it allows wildlife safe passage over the motorway and keeps them from getting hit or smushed. You may have also noticed on the Facebook page this week a really wonderful story, which I will try. Oh, I found it very quickly. From The Guardian, probably easily the most posted from source, of a dog that spent, well, I'll just read this to you. I posted this with the bit of commentary that we don't deserve. We don't deserve these wonderful creatures with the hearts, the wide open hearts that they have, the unconditional love and support that they give us, and that we don't deserve it. We just don't. The dog has a Turkish name, which I currently probably shouldn't try to pronounce, but I want to say it's Boncuk, but I probably have that incorrect. It's Boncuk. If I were to anglicize it, I'm sure it would be quite different, but my guess is Boncuk. But I will read this. I'll read a bit of it to you. With the headline, if you go to our home Facebook page, I'm reading this while I allowed George to scroll through the page to see if there's anything else that jumped out at him that we can comment on before we close with you for this week. I posted that this is at our home Facebook page, that other side of information. It's good to have a little bit of good news every now and then. And this is a wonderful story of loyalty and love, unconditional love. With the headline being, a patient dog waits for days outside hospital. Boncuk returned each day to hospital in Turkish city of Trabzon, which I'm sure I'm saying wrong, where owner Semal Sintruk was being treated. And this is from the Associated Press in Istanbul, dated Thursday, 21 January. A devoted dog has spent days waiting outside a hospital in Turkey where her sick owner was being treated. The pet, Boncuk, which means bead, followed the ambulance that transported her owner, Semal, to the hospital in the Black Sea in the city of Trabzon, and again, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, on 14 January. She then made daily visits to the facility, the private news agency DHA reported. Sintruk's daughter, Anur, said she would take Boncuk home, but the dog would run back to hospital. A hospital security guard, Mehmet, told DHA she comes every day around 9 a.m. and waits until nightfall. She doesn't go in. When the door opens, she pokes her head inside. On Wednesday, Boncuk was finally reunited with Sintruk when she pushed outside in a wheelchair. She's very used to me, and I miss her too constantly, he told DHA. Sintruk was discharged from hospital on Wednesday and returned home with the dog. And then there's a picture later on in the article of he in the wheelchair with the dog next to him with tail wagging and the dog smiling. Incredible. It's a wonderful, kind, loving story about how we just don't deserve sometimes the love and the unconditional. And it's a lesson, by the way, about unconditional love, isn't it? A lesson about love that we could use, that we could stand to learn from. Can you imagine a dog, your dog even, leaving your house, going to the hospital every single day and just sitting outside the hospital? I mean, it's just, it's a lot we could learn from it. I guess is the bottom line. It's a lot we could learn from that. George, was anything else that jumped out at you? Try to get to 7:30 here, and then we'll say goodnight to everyone.
The other one that we discussed today was the bribery scandal. Samsung Air gets prison term for bribery scandal.
See, I thought this was a big story. I really did, and it was interesting to see some of the. Let me see if I can find that one so you can read a touch of it. I thought this was a very big story because this is a. We don't do this here. We don't hold CEOs accountable for anything, which is doubly interesting because, you know, corporations are people, of course. We don't hold our CEOs accountable for everything. How many big bank officials went to jail in 2008 for causing the housing crash? The answer is none. How many were investigated? None. How many paid fines? That I'm aware of, none. Here's one of the leading economic figures in all of South Korea. From the largest company in South Korea, if not one of the largest conglomerates on earth. And the government of South Korea went after him. And this is from the BBC from the 18th. This goes back to Monday. This goes back to last Monday, nearly a full week ago. Samsung Air Lee Jae-young has been sentenced to 2 years and 6 months in prison by High Court in South Korea. The bribery case is a retrial of an earlier one involving the country's former president, Park Geun-hye, who was jailed for bribery and corruption. Lee has been de facto head of Samsung Electronics since 2014. Ruling is likely to have ramifications for the future of his role at the tech giant. Well, I should certainly hope so. I mean, if he was the de facto head of the company and he's going to jail for 2.5 years, I should hope that would affect his future at the company. News of the sentence sent Samsung Electronics shares more than 4% lower. One would hope that it would have sent it even lower than that. But it's interesting that they, from the section titled Repeatedly Involved in Crimes, according to the court's verdict, Lee actively provided bribes and implicitly asked the president to use her power to help his smooth succession at the head of Samsung. It speaks again to what we don't do that here. We don't hold CEOs accountable here. Republicans will tell you the Supreme Court has created law out of thin air. The Constitution doesn't mention any of this. It doesn't even come close, to be honest. That corporations are people. Well, when corporations kill someone through negligence, through unsafe working conditions, through poisoning in their products, through any one of a variety of reasons, or whether they just shoot union protesters outside, union strikers outside of a building. When are the corporations tried? Are they arrested? Are they sent to jail? None of that happens. Here's one of the leading economic powers on earth, a power, by the way, that we helped create by sending our industrial base outside the country, and by a country that, by the way, instituted and continues to maintain a very deep system of tariffs and import taxes and protections and so on that we don't used to have. They actually operate a system of tariffs and import taxes and protections, government subsidies and so on that go back to Alexander Hamilton himself. Just like we used to have here. Oh, but we don't anymore because big corporations want to destroy unions and increase profits and have no labor costs. So we shipped our whole manufacturing base overseas. But that said, the man committed crimes. The government investigated, tried him, and convicted him. Could you imagine any such thing happening here in this country? Rick Snyder, the former governor of Michigan, only last week got charged for the Flint water crisis, for poisoning an entire city with lead, all in the name of profit. But what did he get charged with? A felony? Did he get charged with manslaughter? Did he get charged with intent to cause? Murder, mayhem, manslaughter, assault? He got charged with a misdemeanor. He got charged with a misdemeanor. If he goes to jail at all, and I highly doubt that he will, it might be 30 days. In all likelihood, he may have to pay a fine. He gets to walk away, and eventually the charge will come off of his record because it's a misdemeanor. He poisoned an entire city. And why did he do it? Because that city is largely black, poor, and did it for profit. My friends, we are not the leaders of anything on this planet. We are outliers. The only thing we lead in is defense spending and tax cuts for wealthy people. Oh, well, infant mortality, lack of education, lack of access to health care. And come to think of it, there is a few things we lead on. We are the outliers, folks. We are the outliers. After 4 years, anybody feeling great? Are we great yet? Is all our greatness going to go away? Is all the greatness we created over the last 4 years going to go away? I don't think so. You have to have it before you can lose it. And we don't. And we didn't, and we didn't get it. Still waiting on that healthcare plan from the Republicans, by the way. I'm sure it's coming any minute. Still waiting on that plan that's going to replace the Affordable Care Act and give us all, cover everybody. Still waiting on that. Hope you're not holding your breath, because I'm not holding mine. 7:29 Eastern Time, we're going to say goodbye to you for this week. I will endeavor, as will George and April, to bring a guest to you next week. But that is it for this week. Let me just say thank you to every single person that was with us watching and listening this week, to everyone who entered a comment into the chat and joined us to be part of the program and interacted. I appreciate it very, very much. I truly, truly do. We are not here if you are not there. And I enjoy doing this. I've been doing radio and television since I was in high school, and I enjoy it. I definitely have gotten bit by the bug. There's no question about that. I do this. It is a passion project. I love it. I enjoy it. It means the world to me, and it means the world to me that you are there. But we would not be here if you are not there. So we will return next week at 5 p.m. Eastern. We will not be with you Super Bowl Sunday for obvious reasons. I think the majority of you will be busy. And perhaps that's why we had such a hard time getting a guest this week, because everybody decided they wanted to watch the NFL. And you know what? I can't argue with that. I was watching before it was time for me to come behind this microphone. So I guess I kind of get it. But we will be with you next week. We will not be with you Super Bowl week. Next week is not Super Bowl week. Next week is the off week for the NFL in between. So we will be here next week. Next week is the 31st. And then the following week after that, I think, is the 7th. So whatever day the Super Bowl is, we will not be with you for that. Until then, I beg you, as I do every week, please, visit us on Twitter. Give us a follow. What do you do on Twitter, George? You give a follow, or is it a like? Yeah, it's a follow, I think. You give us a follow on Twitter. That would be lovely. Go to the YouTube channel. Give us a subscribe there. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe on YouTube. What it just gives you is it'll give you an alert whenever we upload anything there. Plus, you can find all the recorded versions of the program back, I think, almost all the way to the beginning, if I'm not mistaken. If there's anything that you missed, if there's a guest that you missed, if you came in the middle of a program and you missed part of the program, you can always catch up at our YouTube channel called That Other Side of Information. Visit the Facebook page throughout the week. We are constantly posting there. George posts, I post, April posts. We have folks, again, that submit articles, and then we approve them if they are appropriate, and we post them there. Mark mentions another excellent conversation. Well, I don't know about that, Mark. It was kind of a monologue for a really, really long time, and I've basically run out of things to say, so that's why we're closing the show. But your compliment is very, very humbly appreciated. I don't know if this one's exactly going to go to the Radio Hall of Fame, but I very, very much appreciate your kind words, and please know that I appreciate that you're listening and that you're with us each week. I truly do mean it. I do appreciate it, my friend. So until next week, please do. I leave you with the words that we offer you each and every week. We mentioned earlier in the program that I don't think there can be unity without accountability. And there are a lot of folks in this nation that need to be held accountable, including every single one that stormed the Capitol. All of the people that fomented and encouraged that. There are literally, there are members of both chambers of Congress that need to be expelled. There are state legislators across this nation that need to be expelled, several of them right here in Pennsylvania. There are Republican apparatus officials that need to resign and run away and hide in shame, several of them right here in my own backyard. But another form of accountability comes when we have conversations with folks who may buy into all of these crazy belief systems, but weren't the ones that stormed the Capitol. They may have sat home and been as horrified as all the rest of us. And that might have been the breaking point for a lot of them to say, wait, this has all gone too far. And that might have been the breaking point for them to self-examine. And that's the opening where the conversations begin. So I beg you all to have conversations this week and every week. The neighbor might still have the Trump flag on the lawn, but that doesn't mean that there aren't things that you can't talk about. Even if it's something as simple as the weather, or your health, or family, or if you're in a warmer section of the country, how lawn maintenance, or something that simple. But when we can start having these conversations, no matter how basic, no matter how simple the conversations might be, that's when we can rebuild and start to reintegrate and become one community again. We can do this. I'm convinced of it. It's going to take a very long time. And it's going to take a lot of patience and a lot of work. And I'm not here to tell you that I'm better than any of you and that I have so much patience and time and for any of it, because I don't always. Sadly, I can sometimes get drugged down into the argument just as quickly as the next person. But when we can have these exchanges on a more personal, polite, kind, conversational level, that's when the healing and the unity can begin. In a nation of 330, 340 million people, unanimity is never coming. There's just simply too many people. It's hard enough to get 10 people in a room and have them agree on everything. It's certainly never going to come in a nation of 330, 340 million. But that still doesn't mean that we can't talk to each other. And I absolutely believe that we can. So let's do that. Check on your friends. Check on your neighbors. Do so with a mask. Knock on the door, step back 10, 15 feet, talk. It's a way to talk face to face and do it safely. Check on seniors who are close to you, not just close family, but close proximity to you. Knock, step back, see if they need something. If you're going to the grocery, ask them if they need something. We can build this nation back. We can heal it in so many small little gestures that when all those small gestures begin to add up, they mean big things. So we can do this. And I ask you to please do exactly that. Please look out for yourself. Look out for each other and be kind. It has been my honor to be with you this week, as it always is. And I will be here again next week. And I hope that you will be too. So for now, for April Riddick, for DJ Lex, for DJ Earl, and George, any last thoughts, any last thing you want to throw out there into the ether, sir?
No, I think you covered it.
Ladies and gentlemen, a man of many words.
I'm taking those deer whistles back. That's it.
You're gonna
That's
kill
it.
me
I'm
for that
I'm
one,
gonna-
boy. He's gonna kill me for that one. He's gonna get George's gonna cut my pay again.
Yeah, I'm gonna cut your pay.
0 from 0 is still 0.
Yeah.
Oh, what a week. I told you it was going to be an interesting show, George. Oh, goodness gracious. This one's not exactly going to the Radio Hall of Fame, I guarantee you. Other episodes, maybe we could have knocked on the door and left an anonymous package. We're not even doing that this week.
It
Not
might
this
go
week.
up to Rotten Tomatoes. You never know.
Well,
Might
that's
get
well,
like an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes.
yeah, that's we could try a rotten. You know what? Anything that spreads the word. What's the no, all press is good. All press is good press.
Yes.
For April, for DJ Lex, for DJ Earl, and for my dear friend and technical producer George Dare, I'm Jeff Kennedy. We will see you next week on The Kennedy Effect. Please take care of yourselves and each other. Good night.